Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraft woman Hermione Wald. We warmly welcome the family of Private James William York, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the contingent from the Army Indigenous Pre-Recruitment Program, who are also in attendance this evening. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Thank you. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private James William York. Jim York was born in Zeehan, Tasmania on the 2nd of May 1892, the eldest of 5 children of Albert and Heather York. He grew up in the Sheffield area and attended the nearby West Kentish State School. By the time the First World War began, York was living in Burnie, where he was working as a school teacher. One of his younger brothers, Richard, had enlisted in July 1915 and made it as far as Egypt before being hospitalised with a serious stomach complaint in September. Richard suffered ill health for the remainder of the year, and in January 1916, he returned to Australia and was discharged as medically unfit. Jim York enlisted for service in the Australian Imperial Force at Claremont on the 10th of October 1916, and after initial training was allotted to the 7th Reinforcements to the 40th Battalion. On the 10th of February 1917, York embarked from Outer Harbour, Adelaide, aboard the transport ship Siang B, bound for England. On arriving in England, he was sent to the 10th Training Battalion at Durrington. On the 13th of July, York was transferred to the Machine Gun Details Depot in Grantham. Several months more training followed before he was sent to France in mid-October, joining the 25th Machine Gun Company. The 25th Machine Gun Company spent the next several months rotating in and out of line in the Ypres sector in Belgium. In March 1918, the German army launched its spring offensive on the Western Front, driving the British forces back across ground that had been won at heavy cost since 1914. Also in March, the machine gun companies across the AIF were formed into battalions, and the 25th became part of the 5th Machine Gun Battalion while retaining its own numbering. The company was sent from Belgium to the Somme in France, and by the beginning of April was Fort of Amiens, firing in support of the Australian infantry units of the 5th Division. In the early hours of the 9th of April, Private Jim York was digging a machine gun position when he was shot through the head and shot in the head by a German sniper and killed instantly. He was 25 years old. Company Quartermaster Sergeant Bowman, who was nearby when York was killed, wrote to the Red Cross Wounded and Missing Bureau, telling them that he and several of York's comrades had given him a battlefield burial the following day, and that Bowman had written to York's parents telling them of their son's death. Bowman also provided a hand-drawn map to assist the graves registration units in locating York's grave. After the war, York's remains were exhumed and reinterred in Crucifix Corner Cemetery at Villiers-Bretonneux. The war also hit the wider family, with 2 of York's cousins being killed. Private James Gutteridge of the 49th Battalion was killed in action on the 12th of October 1917, and Gunner Frederick James York died of wounds only 5 days later. Private James York's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private James William York, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.